Ladies and gentlemen, free thinkers, makers of the future, welcome to the session. Thank you for making the time. I know a lot of you have been involved in this project, seeing the possibility, making it happen, supporting in all kinds of ways. So your presence is much appreciated. We're going to begin, before we get started, we're going to actually begin with a safety moment from the ICC. Oberking, Kanye, is that you? Safety mode from the ICC. Is that, I'm skipping that. Okay, then I'm going to, as I said, to punctuate just how welcome you are and give some extra context and texture, I'd like to welcome Dr. Bethuel Sefapelo from the CSIR, Chief Executive of the Smart Places Cluster.
Just a correction, not Chief Executive, but the Executive Cluster Manager of a cluster we call Smart Places at the CSIR. We've got 9 clusters, and Smart Places is one of those. Therefore, this project within the CSIR was undertaken in an impact area called Inclusive Smart Settlements and Bridges. So it couldn't have been held on a better day than today, when at the CSIR we are having a celebration of our work in research, development, and innovation in this biennial conference of the CSIR. My role is therefore to welcome you all to this event where we are going to be handing over not the drone, not equipment, but we are handing over capabilities to Zamisa Holding, and my boss, Dr. Sandile Malinga, is going to be honoring us with that. Why am I saying that we are not handing over a piece of equipment? A piece of equipment by itself is not useful. It's a capability because it entails, yes, a functional drone or equipment, plus well-trained users of the drone. My information says that there are 4 pilots. 2 of them were unemployed persons that have been thoroughly trained to operate this drone. 2 others are staff members of the KZN Department of Human Settlements. So the capability has the equipment, as I've indicated, has the human capital who have not only been trained but also certified. More than that, the trained people have the operating procedure or the expertise to operate the drone in a safe and effective manner. And therefore, all of those things together are capabilities which the CSIR, as part of the collaborators in this project, will be handing over that capability. So, and I'm not trying to perhaps take some of the words that others that will talk after me would say, but I was given 10 minutes, and I know that I've spent about 4 minutes. It's a collaboration, and obviously in sync with one of the values within the CSIR. One of our values is collaboration, and therefore, when you look at this project, you see collaboration in action, in the sense that we, the CSIR, the people that were charged with the implementation of the project, as it were, and we have the DSI, Department of Science and Innovation, who provided foresight, if you like, into the project and the funding. And you had TIA, who were really the custodian and the manager of the project. So they project managed everything to ensure that like the funds and the intentions of the funder are achieved. And then you had ZAMISA Holding, who obviously going forward, they are tasked with making sure that the capability gets to be used in providing different offerings or offerings to different customers. And ladies and gentlemen, as I've indicated, my role is to welcome you all, and therefore, on behalf of the CSIR, I welcome you all to this auspicious occasion of handing over or celebrating the achievement of a project that we started in 2019 in the handing over of the capabilities to ZAMISA Holding. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And as was mentioned, please, Dr. Sekretelo, a huge thank you from us.
Thank you very much.
A token of my appreciation.
Let me take it. Okay, thank you.
Now, as was mentioned, the Technology Innovation Agency was right in the middle of this process. So, Mr. Busi Kusana, Executive for Innovation Enabling and Head of Technology Stations, a few remarks on the process and project.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Program Director. Greetings to all representatives from all different government departments and their entities. Being involved in the process, people that are sitting there. So we need to make that acknowledgement to say some of us show up in the time and we want to eat the food, cut the ribbon, and don't do the work. So we appreciate the efforts, hard sweat, and all those sleepless nights in making things work. I'm actually representing the acting CEO of the Technology Innovation Agency, who would have loved to be here because these projects and initiatives are at his heart. You know, he leads with the heart. And one of his aspirations is to make sure that, you know, we start initiatives that promote inclusivity and participation of those who previously did not participate, and most importantly, youth. There is youth in the group from ZAMISA, so you are correct. This addresses the issue of youth participation in science, engineering, and technology. Hence, he would have loved to be here because that is at his heart of the things that he does. So, in the TIA Act and its objective, not having to read it as it is, you will see that it's the issue of exploitation of knowledge, science, for the benefit of our communities and society. I think for me, these initiatives demonstrate exactly that, where we look out for solutions, we look out for capabilities, and we make sure that they benefit societies, in this case, the human settlement aspect. So it does actually speak to the mandate of TIA. But I think there's one thing we've not done right, is to talk and publicize such achievements and things that I believe we've got right. I think we need to do more of this. These are small wins, but we must talk more and more about it so that people can see how science, engineering, and technology could be of benefit to the society. You know, until the lion tells his story, you know what happens to the tale of hunting. So we need to be able to live and tell our stories behind what we have to deal with in the challenging environment. Dr. Betu will make a comment around the issue of these actual capabilities, because sometimes people think you get the technology right, you get the market right, that's about it. But there's a lot of things that has to be put in place. The training issue, the regulatory issue, I call them the red tape. You making sure that people are included in those kind of sectors that hardly makes everyone else to be included. My sense is that this project, from the learnings and the things that the team is to deal with, will be able to provide some of the know-how and kind of tested methods to be able to, if we were to scale up such initiatives in other areas and regions, we have a lot of learnings that we've gathered over this to deal with improving the regulatory issue, making it easier for people to be involved in this. There's been a number of reports talking about pocket of excellence in the ecosystem. My sense is that, the OECD is one of those reports. My sense is that this initiative demonstrates that actually those pockets of excellence can actually work together. I've been informed that there's a lot of work that has been done prior through CSIR, a lot of learnings that have been done. TIA coming in with the facilitator, the coordinating role, bringing all the SMEs into this platform, for me, is this pocket of excellence working together. We should give kudos to ourselves that it's no longer about me. We are finding ways in collaborating and working together, which is anyway what the ecosystem demands. We need to work together because the resources are unlimited. We'll continue to be short of those resources. Working together will make us be able to achieve the limited resources that we have. To the Department of Science and Technology, it's always encouraging when you see a department putting confidence in their implementing agents to take up challenging initiatives, test new ways of de-risking solutions for the benefit of the community. Sincere appreciation for that, because without that confidence, TIA would not have been involved in this initiative. So it becomes critical to see where the department bringing all these initiatives into TIA to test will continue to find a way of not disappointing you going forward with other initiatives going into the future. So I've touched the issue of transformation, the issue of dealing with regulatory issues, compliance to industry. I know it's difficult. I've met you on the corridor, your academic qualifications probably didn't speak to the training that you received, but your aspirations to learn new things is encouraging. We hope that when TIA calls to speak to other youth about this difficult path that you've taken, you'll be able to respond. So for me, it's just a message of encouragement, just to call on to youth. And I know even the leadership that we have in ZANISA aspires to bring more and more youth involvement. So we encourage that going forward. So overall, it comes with responsibilities. When you're given these capabilities to take further, it comes with responsibilities. My conversation with you earlier today shows that actually you've taken this to heart. It's no longer a job now, but it's your legacy, as you put it right. So I hope you will see this legacy through. A message here, and if you look at the TIA logo, it says in the slogan there, innovating tomorrow together. We are not going to let go. We'll travel the path with you because we believe that future South Africa will be built in working with you. You are the people who innovate to come up with these ideas. We can just be able to encourage. So the answer is that we are not letting go. We'll continue to work with you going forward and find other challenges, solve other challenges of this country together. I think the data, the reports, the demonstrations, and all the key useful outputs of these initiatives will be critical in promoting better decision making for government. And for me, we've ticked that box to make sure that our government becomes an effective, responsive, and actually quick in making policies. These solutions are not just services offered by SMEs, but could be used also to make sure that we make informed decisions that is informed by real data, authentic, being gathered live. So once again, thank you very much, and I appreciate all the effort. If I did not acknowledge you, your work is already taken into cognizance. Much appreciated. On behalf of TIA, thank you very much for being part of this initiative.
Thank you very much. As a token of our appreciation and all the involvement, yourself and Tia, congratulations.
Thank you. I need to share it with the
So now, the other component, the other side of capacity building. For the aviation expert in the room, specifically around network systems and applications, I'd like to call Mr. Chris Berger.
Thank you. How do we do the slides? Yes. Thank you. Right. My name is Chris Berger. I got involved in the project specifically to help with the regulatory side of things and the legal compliance side of things. I also have a background in aviation training, and I tried to contribute a little from that point of view. I'll talk a little about the legal framework within which unmanned aircraft operations take place. The application process for a department or an entity to get permission to operate unmanned aircraft for various purposes. I'll refer a little bit to the specifics of this project, some practical issues and some future suggestions. The legal framework is mostly within the civil aviation regulations, which are within the Civil Aviation Authority, the South African Civil Aviation Authority. The CAA operates within a guidance framework provided by the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, which is an agency of the United Nations, and which doesn't have any legal standing in a country like South Africa. All it does is to publish standards and recommended practices, which the local regulating authority then has to implement. So in our case, the CAA. There is a part of the civil aviation regulations called Part 101, which deals specifically with unmanned aircraft operations. And it was promulgated fairly recently, and South Africa was one of the first countries in the world to actually have such a framework. The idea was that it was inevitable that there was going to be a huge increase in the use of unmanned aircraft, and that we had to be ready for that. So the intention was to have a freestanding set of regulations which are not dependent on other regulations, because people participating in unmanned aircraft are typically not from the aviation industry. They're typically either within within some application area rather than from the aviation industry itself. And we were successful in that regard, but the involvement of the Air Services Licensing Council came as a bit of a surprise. And the Air Services Licensing Council is specifically there to regulate airlines. And so initially they were going to demand a 100,000 rand deposit before the application process could even start, and so on. And it's made it extremely difficult for small entities such as a government department or such as a small company to participate in the industry. And it's a shame, because there are certainly huge opportunities for small companies to make a big difference, were it not for the fact that it's very difficult to comply. The application process consists of drafting a manual of procedure and then submitting this to the Civil Aviation Authority for approval. And the manual of procedure includes a complete organogram with certain officials that have to fulfill certain purposes. So you have to have people that are responsible for specific aspects. But the application process takes many months, if not years. And consequently, a little business that has only 2 or 3 people can't appoint 5 people into posts and then sit and wait for 18 months before they can start earning revenue. And that's one of the challenges that we have to work around. In the end, we solved the problem in the context of this project, by involving an established operator with the necessary approvals and getting the operator to serve two purposes. On the one hand, providing the legal framework within which we can operate legally, or within which the department can operate legally, but secondly also providing some call it on-the-job training, because the transition from freshly minted remote pilot to someone who can operate consistently and without jeopardizing safety and jeopardizing the integrity of the equipment is not a trivial process. So that has certainly been the way that we solved the problem, and to our satisfaction. I think it worked well in the end that we have an established operator, UDS, that can help the remote pilots to make the transition into operating with sufficient experience and sufficient background to stay out of trouble. I met someone who repairs unmanned aircraft for a living, and he says that his money keeps falling from the sky, because organizations typically have one or two pilots trained, and then within weeks they reduce the equipment to rubble, and the insurance then sends it to him and he has to repair it. So he says his money keeps falling from the sky. We were, like most things in South Africa, victims of bad timing when the flu came, and it's been very disruptive in many respects in this project. I would also say, the Air Services Licensing Council, incidentally, during this period was disbanded and was completely dysfunctional for, I think, almost a year. It is now back in operation, but that was another reason why we had to change our plans. I want to mention something else specifically. The expectations around the project are difficult to manage, and something that we will have to address in future, which I'll discuss in the next slide. But there had to be a bit of negotiation and a bit of haggling to get to a point where we could finalize certain issues. One of them is the ownership of assets. So government-funded assets being made available to a private organization to serve a government department. The ownership of the assets needed some serious thought. Also, the issue of mutual obligations, providing training to an individual or providing equipment to a company with an expectation to receive services in future, I think needs to be formalized to some extent. In other words, there needs to be some sort of an expectation from the company's point of view to be able to get enough business to invest in the project. And on the other hand, from the funders, in this case the government, there has to be an expectation that both the company and the individuals involved will stick around for a reasonable length of time. It just so happens that a well-trained remote pilot with a bit of experience, shall we say, has some options. Practical issues, I think Mr. Skosana briefly referred to red tape. Post holders must be appointed before the application. As I said, that's a very serious constraint on the ability of small organizations. The process could take a long time, and the risks associated with inexperience, I think I've covered those too. Future actions. We think that government departments, this provincial department is a case in point and was sort of an attempt to try to formulate a process for future reference. So we think that assistance from existing commercial operators is probably the only feasible way of getting things like this done in the future. In other words, instead of trying to cultivate the necessary capabilities within the department from day one, there's some benefit in working with an established operator such as UDS or any of the others. We think that departments and enterprises, small enterprises, should be assisted with the application process. One way that I've advocated personally is to actually devise a manual of procedure, a sample, which an organization can adopt and simply kind of populate the framework. Obviously, someone will have to sit down and do this in cooperation with the Civil Aviation Authority. There are people who do something like that, but they charge upwards of 100,000 rand for it, whereas I think a government department or the CSIR or some sort of an impartial entity that can produce a sample that people can simply adapt to their own requirements would be very, very beneficial in getting the industry up and running. I think pressure should be brought to bear on CAA to simplify the process. ICAO published a set of model regulations for similar operations last year, and those regulations are considerably more lenient than the regulations that we have, which leaves room for a considerable alleviation of the complexity of the application and the licensing process. I said there, as delicately as possible, the Air Services Licensing Council appears inappropriate for the scale of operations. It's an organization that's there to license airlines with huge capital expenditure and with huge implications on safety of life. It seems inappropriate for this kind of application. Mutual obligations, I think I've spoken about that enough, and there should be a policy regarding experience level, which involves in-service training and some level of supervision until eventually the capabilities can be established within the department concerned. Thanks. Any questions?
I'd like to touch on one area that you had in your slide, the last slide, future actions. Mutual obligations should be formulated in advance. So you talked about service period in exchange of equipment. If you could just explain that to us in terms of what are the current understanding between the obligations from ZAMESA itself and the KZN government, and who is going to be responsible to foster it. That obligation culminating into an agreement of some sort, and I think it's an important area in terms of the terms and conditions for the transfer of the equipment or the capability to ZAMESA. If you could just clarify that for us, please.
Certainly. It's a little outside my scope of involvement. I identified that particular issue as something that needs to be formalized up front, and I think this project came against the background of a lot of unknowns, and so I don't think it was addressed early enough in the process, partially because no one knew exactly how things were going to pan out. So Andre, what do you suggest? Can you address that question for us? As I said, to my mind, there are two issues involved. One is the relationship between the government department and the contractor, in this case ZAMESA, and on the other hand, between the contractor and the individuals involved, in this case the remote pilots. Andre, do you have some suggestions for us?
Other than just to mention that yes, that is something that we did come across, because typically your government department would put out a tender, and that is obviously for whoever applies to the tender. You cannot lock in a certain service provider except with a official long-term contract or agreement or partnership of some sort. So that is, I think, what we imply here, that it is not a straightforward answer for that very fact that it must all be a free and fair tender process in all cases where the department wants work to be done. So yes, that it is still some thinking around that question.
All right. So that is one of the reasons why one can't simply say, there's an unmanned aircraft for you, you're going to have business for the next 5 years. There is still the government procurement framework to work within, and it really complicates matters. Any others? Right. Seems like I'm off the hook now.
Thank you
so much. Appreciate the insight. As a token of our appreciation, we'd love you to take this.
Thank you. I also have to wait for the camera now.
So, now the moment we've been waiting for, one of them. Please look at the elegant piece of machinery here to my right. I'd like to ask a representative from Zamisa and yes, Dr. Malinga from the CSIR, executive for the Smart Society division.
Could I actually maybe ask the two parties to do also the picture with the drone, just in the background.
And here, Dr. Malinga will be handing over to Zamisa.
Yes, thanks so much. Before I do that, maybe when Mr. Skusana said a guy comes with a tie, and I thought of it in my mind, but I said no, I'll keep it on. But I think before I do that, I think the event today it's an example of one saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go long, go with others. And this example with the DSI, TIA, ourselves, and Zamisa, it's us going long. And that's the intention here for us to really do things that will move our country forward, having young people involved industry, which is what we want, and the TIA innovation, as well as the DSI as the shareholder, to see us doing things and working with the Department of Natal that is responsible for things such as it's a collaboration and a partnership that we believe will take the project to greater heights and more sustainable for a long period. That's what we want. And so when Dr. Stapler said we are handing out a capability, I said to myself, how do I do it? I can the equipment, but I think it is correct. What we're trying to do here is not just to give infrastructure. It means that you need to keep the ability. The capability has got ability in it. And so you need to come with that and ensure that that ability to use this and to deliver with it remains. And it's only through that that capability can take. In that sense, I can hand over capability because I'm giving this equipment to your ability to be capable. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can I hold this? It's heavy. How heavy is it? There won't be any health issues and safety problems.
Sorry, Dr. Malinga, I have to remind you that we appreciate your contribution. A small token of our appreciation.
No one's taking a picture.
Very disappointing.
Silent cameras.
Last one.
Andre, would you like to maybe speak to...
And let's keep the programming.
Okay, so, of course, this sits within the context of the DSI white paper and the decadal plan. So I'd like to please call Mr. Ngobeni to come speak for DSI.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon to everyone who is here from our partners, CSIR, TIA, ZAMISA, and also our department, human settlements, who are not here due to some other commitments. I'm Jan Goveni, as they've indicated. I'm from the Sustainable Human Settlements Unit, which falls within the Chief Directorate of the Innovation for Inclusive Development. So my DDG, Monin Mufa, would have wanted to be here, but is out of the country. I think the planning was clashing a bit, and also Mr. Musia is not around. The Chief Director for IIT is not around. Let me first appreciate, the project managers who were responsible for this project. As I've indicated, that I'm from Inclusive Development. So in 2018, I think we entered into an MOU with the Provincial Department of Human Settlements, which we do with other departments, water and sanitation, human settlements, the municipalities and stuff. So when we were discussing, I think, how we can work together, there was a challenge that they had in terms of informal, the expansion of informal settlements and land innovation, which would assist them in, planning within the province and stuff. So we identified, this project as one of the demonstration or the flagship project that can assist the provincial department in capping or reducing the expansion of these informal settlements. And we approached, I think, TIA, CSIR, and then we came together, and then we came up with this type of project, which we were handing over the capabilities, as the Dr. Sapiri said. So I think one of the objectives was to cap, the expansion of informal settlements. Number one. Number two was to include, the SMMEs beyond what our used to doing things at the DSI, because we've been working with science councils, we've been working with departments, we've been working with municipalities, but we wanted to work more with the SMMEs, the previously disadvantaged groups, women, youth, and the disabled groups. So that's how we came about in identifying ZAMISA. As I've indicated, that I'm from Inclusive, so this project was one of the projects that wanted to include youth and also the previously disadvantaged groups. So I think without waste of time, I think we really appreciate the contribution that has been made by our entities and our partners. We'll continue working with them in future projects. With, I think, what Chris was presenting about regarding the future actions and also the recommendations, we are trying to come up with a national project, a national program, which is going to be looking at this particular project, where we're going to include, youth who are going to be interested in manufacturing of drones, because we understand that there are few people in South Africa who are in manufacturing of drones. We're also going to be, looking at people who are going to be more pilots, because I know now we've got 4. So we want to roll out that as a national program within South Africa. We're trying to get that investment right, and then we're going to, not be working alone. We're still going to work in partnership with our entities and stuff. So we want that someone in far as deep down in KZN, someone in deep down in Eastern Cape is able to operate, this particular machine, like our 2 pilots that we have. So I think with those words, I think I just want to appreciate the partnership that we have, and also be grateful for the project that we are handing over today. Thank you so much.
we'd like to express our appreciation. Oh, okay, let's move across there. Let's come across for the cameras. Thank you very much for your involvement and support.
How much is it so that I can declare it?
Smart man. So now, yes, by all means.
Good day and thanks. I just wanted to ask, because I heard you speaking of growing this nationally, in which more pilots will be trained. But I just try to understand, are they going to fly drones as pilots? And what's the mission? And also the fact that we have squatter camps about the country. So flying of this and doing those research, are we looking into trying to advise or maybe try to prevent the numbers of squatter camps that we are having, especially those towards rivers? Or what is the main objective? Because I understand the issue of pilots, but with human settlements, where are we heading with that?
Okay, we have a memorandum of understanding in relationship with the National Department of Human Settlements, which covers with all the problems. So what we're looking at is that, informal settlements are mushrooming, growing everywhere, even in Gauteng, with the same challenge. So we're looking at working with this provincial government also, and municipalities, ensuring that we, in capping or reducing, the expansion of informal settlements, we're also training pilots, we're also empowering others who can manufacture drones, who can work in regulatory, who can work in licensing and all that. So that's the main
Okay, so maybe I think my follow-up question would have been directed to the department, because
human settlements or CSIR?
yeah, the human settlement, because I think from your side it's part of funding and the issue of pilots. Because I'm still worried about the number of squatter camps that you are having, and the actions that are taken, especially from municipalities. They wait for people to build and wait for disasters to happen and then take actions. And my thinking was that if we have these drones, immediately when we see people building, then we can have the pilots just to fly there and then give advice. And the advice can go to a community or the people who are trying to erect those. But if that's not the aim, then what will happen? Are we only going to react to disasters, or we are going to try and warn people of this thing of building squatter camps in places where it's not really conducive for human residents?
I think from our side, we together with the CSIR as well, because we always work with the CSIR and also our entities, we have drafted, a 10-year plan, science, technology, innovation, sustainable human settlements roadmap, on how we want to see human settlements be in the coming 10 years. So in that, there are different aspects that we are trying to address. It can be in housing, it can be in technology, it can be in roads, it can be in social and also security clusters and stuff. So I think that's what we're trying to do. But in terms of the housing elements and the other things, I think human settlements can address that. I think it's good. Thank you.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, now is the time to learn more about this drone and see these new capabilities in action. I'd like you all to move across to the demonstration area of, is the weather permitting? I believe it's next to building 45, is that correct? I'm going to hand over to Andre.
The logistics from here is there's a bus for all those that are planning to go to the demonstration site. They can get the bus in front of the building. Just 600 meters from here inside our campus, and we'll take proceedings further from there. And that's also the point where we will learn much more from what is in front of us, rather there than over here. Just one thing that I also want to stress today is, can I have the two people in the green shirts in front? Okay, you're looking at the two people that worked hardest throughout the 3 years. And they weren't even really mentioned by name. So, Lendakula, Sindisa, I'm proud of you. I just want to make that clear. I have a few minutes. These two people came fresh out of university. They didn't know the top and the bottom and the front and the whatever from a drone at all. They got on board with their studies, by the way. Here's a lady that never been in an aircraft, so we bring her out for RPL training. She tells us she's never been in an aircraft ever before. She's already going for pilot license. So just see the background where these people come from, where they started off and where they are now. These are two highly qualified pilots at this point, maybe lacking a little bit of experience, but in terms of qualifications, I don't know, those that are in the know, they are beyond visual line of flight. So that is a high grading that they have. So that means they can commercially operate basically anything in quite a few conditions. So I want the whole room to clap hands for these people. And thank you very much. You guys are the guys that made us proud. Thanks. And then those that want to join us to the demo site, the bus will be in front. Just go to that and I'll meet up with you there.
Thank you, everybody. Your presence is appreciated. Enjoy the demo. Is it whiskey? Yeah. Thank you so much. No.